There's been a report this week that Prince Harry was considering changing his name to Spencer. Obviously, that's the name of his late mother, Princess Diana, and it would presumably mean that he was ditching the family name Mountbatten-Windsor, and obviously comes at a time where relations between Harry and the royal family seem to be at an all-time low. He ultimately decided against the move, according to this report, but the fact he even considered it sends quite a message. Yes,
it does. And I think as well that this is another Harry not knowing what he wants to do. It was only, less than a month ago that he was pleading for a reconciliation with his father and his brother. And the next thing we hear, and I think the story was well sourced, and the next thing we hear, he wants to change the name from Mountbatten-Windsor to Spencer. Well, that is sending a terrible message to the royal family that he doesn't really want a reconciliation. He wants to be completely severed from the royal family. And I think the king should grant his wish. I think he should sever him from the royal family.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really sad if this is true. We don't know exactly when this conversation happened, but it's reported to have been during a recent visit back to the UK. He was advised by his uncle, Earl Spencer, Diana's younger brother, that it just would be legally insurmountable to do so. And I mean, I didn't see this one coming. I don't know about you, Charles, because there's been so much controversy over the use of the name Sussex and whether or not they still have the right to do so. And Meghan saying, look, I'm a Sussex now. But that they might have considered changing their name to Spencer. Why? I mean, is it to send a message to the royal family? Is it to say, OK, fine, you don't want to talk to us, then we're not a part of this anymore? Is it because he feels much closer to his Spencer relatives? They are the ones who turned up for the 10th anniversary Invictus service at St Paul's, for example. There weren't any members of the royal family there. Is it to honour his mother? Some more cynical commentators have suggested, well, it would be very good marketing in the United States to have the Spencer name, and Lilibet would then be Lilibet Diana Spencer.
It's also, I mean, you've mentioned it there as well. I wondered if it had any connection to that rather awkward scene in With Love, Meghan, when Meghan corrected Mindy Kaling on the last name and said, well, I'm not Markle anymore, I'm Sussex now. And then there was confusion about whether that's actually her last name. Could it be related to that? Because it would be, presumably Meghan would then also be Spencer.
Well, no, the royals tend, if they get a title, that as Prince William did, he was William of Wales, and Harry was Harry Wales when he was at school. So he gets married and he gets conferred a title, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. He then instantly becomes Harry Sussex. So that's the way it works. Although he still has, in the background, he is still a Mountbatten-Windsor, as are that's the royal dynasty. So I don't think it's that confusing as such. I just don't understand why he'd want to change his name to Spencer. I do understand, because if the story is correct, then it is sending a huge message to the royal family. I'm not really interested in the reconciliation. It's never going to happen. I may as well not bother with it at all.
It does appear to be sort of along that line.
Yeah, and I agree with Charles, actually, that I think too much has been made about this Sussex surname and whether Meghan has the right to use it or not, because she does.
She does.
And it's up to the king. They are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They do still have those titles. They don't use the HRH, but they are still the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and therefore Sussex becomes their kind of unofficial surname, as you've described it, and the children will be, Archie Sussex and Lilibet Sussex. They were christened Mountbatten-Windsor, but they can use that name as the Wales children do at school.
But one of the things that irritates me is that people are still referring to her as Meghan Markle, and people are still referring to Catherine as Catherine Middleton.
Yeah, and they ceased to be that on the day they got married and chose to take.
It's like any bride who wants to change the name, that's fine by them. But she's now Catherine Wales.
Yes,
that's it. And George is George Wales, Louis is Louis Wales.
Although it is confusing for the children, isn't it? Because when the parents' titles changed, they went from being George Cambridge to George Wales at school. They had one day at their new school as the Cambridge children before they became the Wales children.
Yeah, I have to say that is confusing.
And actually, it was pointed out to me this week that they are the one family that really don't need a surname. because we don't need to, Meghan.
If we can have Madonna, if we can have the Cher, we can have, at this point, whether you love her or hate her, you know her.
If Cheryl Cole from Girls Aloud can get away with just being called Cheryl, and Meghan and the rest of the royal family are in a completely different stratosphere.
We know that Harry has ultimately decided not to take the name Spencer if this report is correct. But how do you think this whole claim would have gone down with Prince William, as it's his mother as well?
I would have thought he'd have been furious when he heard it. I mean, I have to say that we don't actually know if this is a true story, but I believe it is to be true, because you've got to look at where the story came out from and who wrote the story. That is a very, very good royal reporter who wrote it in the Mail on Sunday, Catherine Griffiths, I think. Charlotte Griffiths, sorry, who's very well placed, and the Mail get away with an awful lot of good royal stories. And Spencer nor Harry have issued any denials, even through their friends later on, when other people have tried to follow it up. So I believe the story to be true. And I think William will be, I'm not sure how much more hurt William can take with his brother, but I think this would have hurt him deeply that, Harry wants to have a final cut-off.
Absolutely. So we'll move on now to our last topic. Staying on Prince William, though, he and Catherine had quite a scary incident over the weekend. An intruder broke into Windsor Castle, just yards away from their home, Adelaide Cottage. The man is said to have climbed over a wall to get into the grounds around lunchtime on Sunday, and it's understood the Waleses were at home with their 3 children. Now, a similar event happened at Windsor Castle just, I think, 6 months ago, last October. Does the palace need to tighten security? Well,
I think we have to sort of say to the police that they did a very, very good job. The trouble is at Windsor is that they have removed the armed guards at the main gates. Now, I know this guy didn't come through the main gates, so you've still got armed guards who patrol the inner circle of the castle. And every time, I think this is about the 4th or 5th time that someone has got into the grounds. I think the guy who had the crossbow, who was...
Christmas Day 2021, the one who said he wanted to kill the Queen.
He wanted to kill the Queen. Well, he got arrested, within feet of a door that would have led him into where the Queen may have been. And it's reminiscent of years and years ago of a guy called Michael Fagan, who climbed the railings at Buckingham Palace and actually sat on the Queen's bed while she was still in it. And, and she had to call her butler, Paul Wybrow, to get him out. So, your question about do the police need to tighten up? Yes, they do, because it's always under review. They can never cover every brick of Windsor Castle or any royal residence. But I think the police do an excellent job in protecting the royal family.